What does the housing market look like in Texas in 2024? Stick around and I'll tell you. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm Jeff with Jeff West Properties, your host for the Conroe Living Channel, where we identify and celebrate everything that makes Conroe, Texas, and the greater Montgomery County area one of the fastest growing areas in America. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, getting advice about the housing market from a realtor is like getting advice from a waitress on whether or not you should have dessert.
Do you want some more pie or whole pie?
But honestly, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I don't really look at a realtor's role to really be a salesperson. You know when it's the right time in your life to buy a house, and you know when it's time to move on from an existing house. My job is to give you the best information possible in the most timely manner to help you achieve the best results. Plus, I'm not just a realtor, I'm a real estate investor, so I need this information when I'm putting my own real estate dollars to work.
No, that's good. Good information to have.
So I'm going to give you projections using insight from some trusted sources like Realtor.com, Redfin, the National Association of Realtors, and for Texas specifically, the Texas A&M Real Estate Research Center, which just released their 2024 housing market outlook.
That might be too much information.
So before we get to the 2024 projections, let's take a look at what we just came out of in 2023. 2023 was a brutal year for real estate. Not brutal in the same way we experienced in the 2008 through 2012 Great Recession, where the subprime mortgage made people lose as much as half their value in their housing, but more because it was pretty much at a dead standstill. There's a couple of reasons for that with both buyers and sellers. With sellers, you have what is called the golden handcuffs. If you'd bought a house from 2021 or before, you're sitting on an interest rate of anywhere from the high 2s to around 4%. And with interest rates being what they are now, people couldn't afford to sell and then buy something else with a mortgage. On the buyer side of things, interest rates did start to drop at the beginning of 2023, but then they went nuts, reaching as high as 8%.
That's way more than I can afford.
A fluctuation of about 2% over the course of a year. And it was the highest rate we've had since the year 2000. So as expensive as everything is now compared to that time, it was one of the least affordable times to buy a house in history.
Dude, that was painful.
Total agony.
So because of the dynamic of sellers not selling and buyers not buying, the housing market prices stayed basically flat. In most cases.
My point being, there's always an exception.
Cities in the West that have traditionally been more expensive than the national average, with the interest rate rise, became almost completely unaffordable.
Do you know how expensive California is?
This led a lot of people in those markets to migrate to more affordable areas.
We're going east, right?
So an example of this, here are the top 5 cities that had the most value loss in 2023, according to Redfin. Sacramento, California lost 8.4%. San Francisco, California lost 8.6%. Las Vegas, Nevada lost 9.9%. Oakland, California, 11.5%. And surprisingly, the city that lost the most value,
Austin.
That place is keeping it weird.
Austin, Texas, at 16.4%. More on Austin, Texas later. So because interest rates were the primary reason for the standstill in the market and the mass migration out of unaffordable areas to more affordable areas, that's where we're going to start with the 2024 projections.
Terrific. It's a good place to start.
Without going into an economy lesson, the mortgage rates are closely associated with the federal funds rate. The federal fund rate has been raised incrementally over the last couple of years to fight inflation, but for the last 3 meetings, it's stayed exactly the same, and they've indicated that they plan on incrementally lowering the federal funds rate about 3 times in 2024.
That's good, right?
So because of that, most experts agree
Agree?
Agree.
that we will not see any more mortgage rate increases, and more than likely, we're going to see them settle between 6 and 7%. National Association of Realtors is predicting 6.3% next year in 2024. Consequently, the National Association of Realtors sees a 13.5% increase in home sales this year. So some people may ask the question, if sales are predicted to increase, is that going to be a good thing for housing prices?
Well,
Traditionally, we have found that for every 1% change in mortgage rate, it brings about 4 million new buyers into the housing market. Housing inventory is still well below demand. Pre-COVID, houses averaged about 1 million active listings, according to the St. Louis Fed. But as of last year, we were about 750,000.
More?
Or less. There's less.
A quarter less than average.
Not as much.
Not as much.
Because of this new demand that's brought on by lowered interest rates, coupled with the expected rise in inventory, the good news is that the market is going to somewhat stabilize. Prices are going to stay basically the same because those two things cancel each other out. Now, that's on a national scale, but as always, the most important information in real estate is always local.
Oh, really local?
So in the West, Zillow still predicts that San Francisco and San Jose are going to drop somewhere between another 5 and 6%. Now, two things basically happen because of those West Coast price declines. Number one, it becomes more affordable for those people looking to buy a house in the area. Now, notice I said more affordable because more affordable is not exactly affordable.
This one's actually only 6 times more than you could afford.
I was at a family wedding and I was talking to a cousin who was in the Navy. He just sold his house in Maryland and he did really well on it, but he moved to San Diego and he said there's no way he could afford to actually buy a house there. Because prices are so high on the West Coast, those people who can't afford to do it are often migrating to other areas where there is a better cost of living.
So we'll need something a little more affordable.
So where are they going? You guessed it.
We're going to Texas.
So over the last 3 years, Texas has become the state with the most migration moves, according to U-Haul, which tracks one-way moves. Texas has 4 of the top 20 cities in America as far as migration. Number 19 on that list is my very own hometown of Conroe, Texas, which is a pretty big deal because we're talking about overall people moving to an area. So a town like Conroe with only 100,000 people, it makes a huge difference, and it's one of the reasons we continue to be one of the fastest growing cities in America. And remember earlier when I said Austin, Texas was the city with the highest decrease in property value? Well, you would think that it's because people are leaving the city and there's more inventory. But interestingly enough, Austin comes in at number 5 on the cities with the most people migrating to it.
I didn't expect that.
The reason for that is the cities with the highest migration, like San Francisco and San Jose, Austin is the number 1 destination for people moving out of those cities because it's pretty similar, both in landscape and job opportunities, with Austin being a major tech hub.
Because of the tech.
All kinds of juicy tech.
And with Austin seeing that major price decrease in housing, it's brought out a lot more people saying this is a great time to buy.
We can't afford not to, son.
Talking about Texas as a whole, 7 of the 10 hottest zip codes in America were found in Texas, with the cities of Cypress and Katy in the greater Houston area being number 1 and number 2 respectively.
They're coming!
They're coming! They're coming!
Now, if you're watching this video because you're gathering information to decide whether or not this is a good time to buy a house, if you're thinking about buying in 2024, my suggestion is look at buying in the first quarter of the year or the last quarter of the year.
Cutting down the competition.
Less competition equals more opportunity, especially if you're looking at new construction. In the fourth quarter, builders are looking to get their existing inventory off the books before the end of the fiscal year, and it's a pretty slow time for home sales, so there's some great opportunities to be had.
Big sale! Huge sale!
Now, conversely, if you're thinking of selling your house in 2024, my advice is the exact opposite. List during the busiest times of the season, the late winter, spring to early summer periods.
I mean, making them compete against each other just for our amusement.
Give yourself the best chance of a quick sale and a higher price. If you're looking to do either of those things, let me help. I'm a realtor who has helped hundreds of people relocate to the Lone Star State, and I've also helped several people sell their houses to those new residents.
This is my local place. I'm staying.
You could reach out to me at the contact information below. Give me a call, shoot me a text or email. Be happy to answer any questions that you have and help you get the process started.
I'm here to help you.
If you're considering moving to Conroe or the greater Montgomery County area, here's some videos you should definitely check out.